Hey everybody, and welcome. Today, we are diving into the world of one of the absolute cutest, most fascinating, and honestly most misunderstood animals on the entire planet, the sloth. So you're going to want to stick around because we are about to uncover some of their most incredible and surprising secrets. Okay, so let's just get right to it. When you think of a sloth, what is the very first word that comes to mind? For pretty much everyone, that word is lazy. But is that the real story? Are they just sleepy slowpokes, or is there something way, way smarter going on here? So let's become animal detectives for a bit and really dig in. Is the sloth's reputation for being lazy just a big misunderstanding? And could it actually be a sign of some kind of genius-level survival skill? Well, this whole idea that sloths are lazy is so common, it's literally baked right into their name in a bunch of different languages. I mean, look at this. In German, they're called Feldtier, which means lazy animal. In French, it's paresseux, and in Spanish, perezoso. Both of those mean lazy one. And yep, even our English word, sloth, comes from the old idea of being slow and lazy. So this reputation has for sure gone global. Okay, so before we go any deeper, let's quickly meet the two main sloth families. You've got your two-toed sloths, and you've got your three-toed sloths. And yeah, the biggest difference is exactly what you'd think, the number of claws they have on their front feet. But here's a super fun twist. No matter which family they're in, all sloths have 3 toes on their back feet. So the name only tells you about half the story. All right, it's time to uncover the sloth's first real superpower. And nope, it's not laziness, it's being one of the world's most incredible energy savers. Seriously. This is where their story gets really, really cool. So you might be asking, why do they need to save so much energy? Well, it all comes down to what's for dinner. Sloths are big-time leaf eaters. And here's the thing, leaves are really tough to digest, and they don't give you much energy at all. It's kind of like trying to power a whole video game console with just one little battery. To survive on food like that, you have to be incredibly strategic. And that entire strategy is all about one word: metabolism. Your metabolism is just the engine inside your body that turns food into fuel. Think of it like the battery on your phone. If you've got a ton of apps open and you're watching videos, that battery drains fast, right? But if you switch it to low power mode, it lasts for a super long time. Well, sloths have basically figured out how to live their entire lives in low power mode. So just how slow is a sloth's metabolism? Get this. It is less than half of what scientists would normally expect for an animal of its size. That's just wild. They are the undisputed champions of making a tiny bit of energy last as long as it possibly can. And that super slow metabolism is exactly why they move so slowly. In one whole minute, a sloth travels only about 4 meters. So see, they're not being lazy. They're being incredibly efficient, making sure they don't waste a single drop of that precious energy they get from their leafy meals. Okay, so superpower number 1 is extreme energy saving. Now let's talk about superpower number 2, being an absolute master of disguise. Because let's be real, if you cannot run your predators, you'd better be amazing at hiding from them. And it all starts with their incredible fur. First off, it actually grows upside down, in the opposite direction of most other animals' fur, which acts like a perfect raincoat while they're hanging from branches. But what's even cooler is that a sloth's fur isn't just fur. It's a whole tiny living ecosystem. I mean, just look at who's living in there. You've got sloth moths, you've got beetles, all sorts of other tiny insects. But the most important little resident is green algae. This algae grows all through the sloth's fur, and it gives them this greenish color that acts as the perfect camouflage up in the green leaves of the trees. And here's why that is a total game changer. That green-tinted fur, plus their super slow movements, makes them practically invisible to predators that hunt with their eyes, like jaguars, ocelots, and even harpy eagles. The sloth is literally hiding in plain sight. So how are sloths so perfectly built for a life spent almost completely upside down? Well, it turns out their bodies come with some incredible built-in tools that make it all possible. First up, just look at those claws. They're not just for climbing. They're like these built-in super hooks. They're curved so perfectly that a sloth can just hang from a branch without using any muscle energy whatsoever. They're so good at this, they can sometimes stay hanging from a branch even after they've passed away. Now that is effortless. Now this is really interesting. If you look at their body composition, sloths have way less muscle than most other mammals. But, and this is key, this isn't a weakness. It's another one of their super smart energy-saving tricks. Think about it. Muscles burn a lot of energy, even when you're just sitting still. So by having less muscle, sloths need way less fuel just to get through the day.
All right, we know sloths are slow, we know they're efficient, and they're great at hiding. But they have one more secret superpower that is going to absolutely blow your mind. And it totally goes against everything we think we know about them.
So, let me ask you a question. With their super slow movements and not a lot of muscle, what do you think happens if a sloth accidentally falls out of a tree and into a river? You'd probably think they're in some serious trouble, right? Well, prepare to be amazed. Surprise! Sloths are fantastic swimmers. It's true. They use those long arms of theirs like powerful paddles, and they can actually move through the water more than 3 times faster than they can on land. It is the one and only place you will ever see a sloth move with any kind of speed. And if that wasn't amazing enough, check this out. They can slow their heart rate down so much that they can hold their breath for up to 40 minutes underwater. To put that in perspective, that's longer than a dolphin can. It is an absolutely mind-blowing ability. So now that we've looked at all the evidence, their diet, their metabolism, their camouflage, their incredible adaptations, it's time we go back to our very first question and figure out the real truth about sloths.
First, let's bust one last myth. Do sloths sleep 24/7? Not even close. Scientists who have studied sloths out in the wild found they sleep, on average, about 9.6 hours a day. You know what? That's pretty close to how much a lot of people sleep. So the whole idea that they're always snoozing? Just a myth.
So in the end, what we see as laziness is actually a brilliantly designed and incredibly successful strategy for survival. Every single slow movement, every unique part of their body is perfectly adapted for a life of amazing efficiency. For the sloth, slowness isn't a weakness, it is their greatest superpower. And that really just leaves us with one last thing to think about. In a world that is always telling us to go faster, what can these super successful sloth teach us about the power and even the wisdom of slowing down? It's pretty cool to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this one.